If you want to know if an investment is actually worth investing in, there's a formula that already exists that can tell you, and it is called NPV, or net present value. Using NPV will allow us to calculate the value of a project or investment considering its time horizon and the payouts. And so over the next few minutes, I'm going to show you exactly how to do that, how to calculate NPV, even if you're not a math person. But to understand and then eventually calculate NPV, we first need to understand two sub-concepts that are known as future value and present value. For our example of future value, we're wondering something that is along the lines of, if I invest $1,000 and I have an expected rate of return of 50% per year, how much money will I have after 1 year? We can see that the future value is equal to our $1,000 times 1.5, which is 1 plus our rate of 50%, and that will give us $1,500. So $1,500 is our future value in this case. For our present value example, we're thinking along the lines of, if I want $1,500 after a year and my expected rate of return is 50% per year, then how much do I need to be investing today? The present value is equal to the $1,500 that we want divided by 1 plus our rate of 50%, and that gives us $1,000. We can also apply these same concepts over multiple time periods. For example, what would the future value be if we invested $1,000 at 50% per year for 2 years? $1,000 times 1.5 gives us $1,500 for the first year. And then if we take that 1,500 and multiply it times 1.5 again, we get $2,250 is our future value after 2 years. And working backwards from that, we can find our present value by taking the $2,250 that we want after 2 years. And if we divide that by 1.5, we get $1,500 that we'll get at the end of the first year. Take that $1,500 and divide it by 1.5 again, and we get the $1,000 that we need starting out. So $1,000 is the amount that we need to invest today in order to get $2,250 over 2 years at an expected rate of return of 50%. These are also represented by these formulas, and our future value is basically just represented by this formula. So it's $1,000 times 1.5, which is 1 plus our rate, raised to the power of 2 because we're finding this over 2 years, gives us the future value amount, which is $2,250. Basically, we're taking the present value times 1 plus the rate and raising that to the number of time periods, which in this case is 2 years. And our formula for present value is pretty similar. It is starting with the future value of 2,250, and then we're dividing by 1 plus our rate, and also raising that to the power of the number of years. Now that we understand those two concepts, we can move on to actually calculating NPV, net present value. Let's imagine that we have a very simple investment that will cost us $200 today, and it will pay us $100 a year for the next 3 years, and we want to find the net present value of all the cash inflows and outflows of this simple investment. The first step that we need to do is we need to figure out the discounted amount of those payouts. And so for that, we're going to use our present value formula again and again. And for R, we're going to plug in a metric that is known as WACC, and that stands for the weighted average cost of capital. And basically WACC is the average rate that a person or a business pays in order to finance their assets. And for this example, to keep things simple, we're going to assume that there is a low WACC of 5%. So we take $100 and divide that by 1.05, which is 1 plus our WACC. And that's raised to the power of 1, and that is about equal to $95. So $95 is the present value of our first payment. For the second year, we take $100 divided by 1.05 again, but instead of 1 year, it's 2, so we raise it to the power of 2, and that gives us about $91. So $91 is approximately our present value of the payment for year 2. And then for year 3, it's basically the same thing. $100 divided by 1.05, raise it to the power of 3 because this is 3 years, and that gives us about $86 for the present value of year 3's payment. Once you have the discounted returns, calculating NPV is extremely simple because it's just the sum of the cash inflows and outflows discounted to today. So we take our negative 200 for the initial investment, we add 95, add 91, and add 86, and that gives us a total of $72. So we know that the NPV of this investment rounded is $72. If your NPV is greater than 0, it is a good investment and you should accept it. And if your NPV is less than 0, it is a bad investment and you should reject it, because basically NPV is just saying whether there's going to be a profit or a loss on your investment when you consider the cost of your capital over time. Here's the complex formula for NPV, which you can understand if you learn how to use it. But really, you just need to understand the main concept behind NPV, which is that money today is worth more than money in the future because invested money grows over time. And with our NPV calculations, we can consider the time value of money to determine if an investment today is worth the money that it's going to pay us out in the future. If you found this lesson useful, I would appreciate it if you invest in that like button, consider subscribing to the channel, and check out these videos for more.